Welcome, everyone. Just quickly, right before we get started, my name is Dundrup. I'm the SPC here at Tupten Norbuling, and I have the exceptional honor of welcoming Charok Lama to our virtual Gompa this time. We are blessed to be able to invite Rinpoche for teachings, and many of you know that Rinpoche is a truly remarkable teacher. If this is your first time, you are in for a treat. We have this course for the next the next four after today, the next four Thursdays. And then we've also added a second course on the website, a different 5-week course. If you do look at the event page, don't be intimidated by the course materials. They are just for your supplementary benefit as you go through the course. That's not required, but we put that together just for your use. The course materials are there for you. So Rinpoche, thank you so much for accepting our invitation to teach. We are so grateful that you're teaching for us, and we look forward to many, many, many years of teachings with you.
Thank you so much, Venerable. Okay. So, Sangye Jodang Tsoye Sonam La Changjo Pato Dane Yep Songje Daye Senso Yebe Sonam Ye Lola Penche Sangye Du Ba Sho Sangye Jodang Tsoye Sonam Changjo Pato Dane Yep Songje Daye Senso Yebe Sonam Ye Lola Penche Sangye Du Ba Sho Sangye Jodang Tsoye Sonam La Changjo Pato Dane Yep Songje Daye Senso Yebe Sonam Ye Lola Penche Sangye Du Ba. Okay. So today we start everyday awakening. I think it's morning here, so I'm awake early morning. So yeah. One of the things that leads to achievement in practice, we as human beings, we always what do we say, do things in according to benefit, because if there's no benefit, then what's the point of doing anything, right? So everything that we do in our daily lives, I think somehow, somewhere, in some corner, there's some benefit. And if it is maybe it is a momentary benefit, maybe it's ultimate benefit. That one, we leave to our own minds and our own creations of how we see things to judge. But in true reality, the benefit, I think, is always there, whether it be personal benefit, whether it be emotional benefit, whether it be physical benefit, whether it be some. So there's always has to be a benefit. Otherwise, we tend not to do things. One thing that is missing, I think, the link that is missing coming now to this era and age is our connection with ourselves. We are so influenced towards external benefits, to a huge, 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 what do we say, advertisement of external benefits, that we do so much to gain external benefit. And by focusing solely on external benefits, one of the links that we miss in our daily daily life, or one of the links that we miss in our our short time on the earth, on the, what is it, Lo Zambuling. Lo Zambuling Lo is South Earth. So if you do the mandala, then we have the 4 different continents. So anyway, so the south continent of the earth, while we have our short time there, then our focus solely based on external benefit, uh, there's a very, very, very large amount of internal damage by focusing solely on external benefit. And I think this is one important thing where Dharma comes into play. Uh, as we progress on our spiritual path in Dharma, one of the things that does become extremely important is the internal benefit. And if we focus on the benefit, the true benefits of the true benefits that we receive through practicing internally, I think then we come to the realization that, oh, actually there's huge benefit by focusing on our internal development. Uh, because if you don't do that, then our ability to see those benefits, or to see that there is anything to be achieved there, sort of like what do we say, sort of like disappears. So I think just to start with today we'll be going through the Everyday Awakening course for inner peace. One of the first things that should be inspire you is to see what the benefit is. Because if you are given a reason that there is a benefit, and if it's like saying, if I give you $1 and I say work for me, everyone in most likely be, oh, no, no, no. But then if someone gives you a $500 and says work for me, they're, oh, yes, yes, yes. So based on if we are able to see, recognize, and see that there is benefit at the end of the tunnel, then most likely we'll enter the tunnel. So in spiritual awakening, or spiritual, what we say, practice, you need to see the same thing. A lot of the texts in throughout the teachings of the Buddha, as well as the teachings of the what we say, the old lineage, or the Pandit lineage in India, Nalanda and all of that, and in the new lineage of the, including the Dzogchen and the Kadamba tradition. A lot of these texts, they mention, one of the first things they mention is, they mention the qualities of enlightenment. They mention the benefits of enlightenment, and that is for aspiration. So similarly, today, before we start, aspiration is extremely important, because without aspiration, inspiration doesn't come, and without inspiration, then of course practice doesn't come. So what we say, without that, then the practice doesn't come. The what we say, the cognition of what we call, um what's the word, the cognition of the benefit of realization doesn't come, and so on and so forth. So by not having those, then so then practice doesn't come. So basically, the first thing we always have to do in the morning is to recognize, to achieve conviction in the benefits of the practice. So this I think is should be one of our daily practices every morning. When you get up, the first thing is to inspire you, and is to give you the needed boost and the needed energy to actually proceed in the practice, and to proceed in the actions of the practice, right? uh, Most likely, uh, what happens to us in our daily lives is that we recognize practice, we recognize that there's a benefit to the practice, but then the application is not there. Because the awareness is not there. Anger comes and it goes, hatred comes and it goes, all kinds of different daily, what is the emotional imbalance comes and goes. And we don't recognize it, we are not aware of it. And even if we are aware of it, we are not aware of it in the sense that it demises our practice. We are not aware in the sense that it, what do we say, it contributes to our practice going down. And by doing good action every day, by focusing on ethical means and ethical methods of practice, by being aware of the application of the profound perfections in our daily life, lead to an ultimate, what we say, conviction and realization, and ultimate, understanding, and also gain, that also disappears. So we go about in our daily lives knowing that we are practicing, but knowing that we are practicing only when we are in front of the Buddha, inside the, what we say, the gompa, inside the hall, the puja hall, and while doing our prayers. Yeah, this is practice. But then once we are out of the gompa, once we are out of the prayer hall, once we are at our workplace, once we are at our, I don't know, on holiday or wherever we go, once we are away from all of that, then what happens is our awareness sort of disappears. The practice sort of disappears. The, what is it? The secondary part of our mind realizes that we are practicing, but it realizes we are practicing because through our daily life, maybe 1 2 hours we do our practices, and that's what it recognizes as practice. So this is, I think, one thing that we need to be aware that, yeah, that is a part of practice, actually, not practice, but just a part of it. you know what do we say, getting rid of our negative karma is a part of practice, and that in itself is not good enough. Ngondo itself is not good enough, because after Ngondo, one of the things that we need to do, we need to proceed into the practice. The action has to come. The mental, what we say, the mentally being able to cognize, and mentally being able to recognize, mentally being able to focus. These all come into practice, and then through action also. It's not just sitting and praying. It's also through action, as in developing consistency in the actions that are required to develop our, what do we say, uh, our mind and our focus. So these are all practices, and therefore, just getting up in the morning and building meditating on the qualities, on the benefits, and seeing that these benefits bring in this huge amounts of benefit, actually, what do we say, shape the path towards your enlightenment. The recognition every morning towards that, and the conviction, and the recognition towards, what we say, being able to uh, um, uh, sort of like put out a clear picture every morning, that that you convince yourself that you will be aware of your, not just in the temple, but aware throughout your day, with your mind, with your speech, with your actions of the body. And that, I think, is one important practice every morning. So this will be, I think, the first thing that we need to understand, that in order to be convinced, or to be, what we say, extremely happy to practice, you need to remind yourself that there's huge benefit. And when you realize that there's a huge benefit, then practice, of course, very quite naturally happens. And even if there's hardship, then the likeliness that you will be strong enough to face those hardship is also going to be quite, what we say, quite clear. Yeah. So anyway, so that's, I think, one of the first parts of awakening. Now, the second part of awakening, after realizing that there's huge benefit, and that, yes, these practice leads to my mental development towards enlightenment. Yeah. We need to realize that this enlightenment is, uh, in some senses, I think, in a lot of ways of representing the concept of enlightenment. Even in the philosophical method, even in that context, I think sometimes there is, whether we are able to value that or not, because it seems so far, it seems so, what do we, distant. It feels like we are so far away from achieving it, that actually doubt starts to, what we say, appear in our mind, whether we will be able to do it or not. Yeah, chetamje ngosundu topa means, your ability to perceive each and every single thing. Normally we like to use the word past, present, and future. Your mental ability coming to the point where you are able to perceive everything in existence. Well, there is a philosophical part where they say that everything that exists is now, and therefore, shiduna tadoi bikyab, we say, if it exists, then it only exists for now, because the past is gone and the present is yet to come. There's the philosophical part that we can, maybe one day we can debate on that. But for now, let's put it in the concept that yes, well, the ability to perceive each and everything, past, present, and future, at a single at a single moment, and as clear as you being able to see it in the palm of your hand like this. When we are unable to see something, then we put it in our hand and we look at it like this, right? So then it becomes more clearer. So exactly in the same way, they say that yes, when the ability of the enlightened mind comes into play, then one of the abilities is that. Then third is that path, mental mental path that has gone beyond. Tarjima means gone beyond. Yeah. So now you look at those words, gone beyond, and the ability to conceive each and everything, very clearly, without any doubt, with full conviction. We look at it and it seems like, oh, it's very far. But then that in itself shows that the path itself. Uh, One thing is that the path is very strong, that it can, what we say, it can develop into that state, because the path has everything to do with the development. The practice has everything to do with development. Without development, the practice, the achievement doesn't come. So, development. And that development also a very clear state of development within our cognitive part, our reasoning, logic, being able to perceive, being able to convince, being able to conceive, and then through that ability, being able to, what do we say, sort of like maximize our ability that is within the cognitive state of mind. So now that is, I think, the second part is recognizing that actually, even though it looks far, uh, you know, I think in the Himalaya, I call it the Himalaya effect. So when we go for these treks up in the Himalaya, recently I went up for the trek in what's in to Laudo, Gyabje Lama's Operum, which is monastery, or Laudo Lama's monastery up in Khumbu. So when we are trekking, one of the things that happens in the Himalaya is the exact opposite. Everything looks so near, but the more you go, the more you walk, you know you're walking for hours and hours and hours, it still looks very near, and it's like, what do you call, the mirage effect or something like that, right? They call it. So because the mountains are so big and you're walking like you're a small ant on the side of the mountain, the more you walk, it just seems so near, but then again you see that you have further to go. So I think it's the opposite effect, in practice, when we see the qualities of the Buddha and qualities of the Bodhisattva and qualities of certain practices, even mild practices such as shamatha and vipassana. If you read through the qualities that you can achieve through those, then it's like, wow, wow, it doesn't seem like I can do it. And then a lot of the stories of the past gurus and the past teachers and the past bodhisattvas, a lot of their stories are all about struggle. Maybe you've heard the story of Milarepa, one of the most famous stories of how much he struggled to achieve what he achieved. And sometimes it's to inspire there, but then sometimes it has the opposite effect of inspiration. Sometimes you read those stories and then you think, well, I can't do that. You know this guy is so amazing, and with me being who I am, I'm not sure if I'll be able to do that or not. That sort of like changes the concept a little bit. It's actually the stories are there, not real, what do you say, real life stories are there in pages, so that we can read, so that it can inspire us. But then, sometimes the opposite effect. But anyway, coming down to the point, I think the essential part of the second essential part of all of this is to recognize that everything in practice is achieved based on your mental state. Yeah, when your mind is ready, this is why I say, if there's joy in practice, then the path is very, very, very short. If there's no joy in practice, if you're doing practice for the sake of practicing, then the path is going to be very, very, very long. Yeah, it really depends on your mental state, how the achievement actually is. um so when we if just for an example, if you are practicing for the sole benefit of my enlightenment, because I'm suffering and I'm going through this and going through that, and therefore I want to achieve enlightenment, therefore I want to practice. Now that one is not through the accordance to the practice of the bodhisattva's path. That has a lot to do with the self-cherishing view. That has a lot to do with recognizing your suffering, but has nothing much to do with the recognizing other suffering. Has a lot to do with your liberation, but doesn't have much to do with your ability. What you're going to do with after enlightened? What are you going to do with those abilities that you achieve after enlightenment, right? So now, because it's not in tune with the bodhisattva's path, the Arya beings, their liberation, quite similar to the concept of enlightenment, minus the what is it, the concept of bodhicitta. So their accumulation takes, like, 500 times more accumulations than the bodhisattvas. Their effort takes, 500 times more effort than the bodhisattva. Everything is multiplied now. Everything gets harder now, because the mindset is not right, and therefore the path doesn't go in accordance, because development only comes in accordance with the mindset that you have of the development, right? If I give you a general worldly example, it will be, the what we say, the joy in the work that you do. Some people really enjoy their work, and then they don't realize how time flies, they don't realize how time goes, they don't realize how. And same thing happens when we have a break. 6 days, if you're working 6 days a week and then you have one day break and then you go out one day, and 6 days a week you're looking at your watch, you're looking for the time to pass very, and every time, wondering how, when will my shift be over. But then, on that day, it seems like you wake up, and of course, to start with, you wake up at around, midday, so half of the day is already gone. And then the other half, you don't even realize it flying by. You just, small small things that you enjoy, that you like, you do, and time just flies by. So I think this is a good example of how the, what do we say, the concept of time is so reliant on how relaxed and how enjoying, what is it, enjoyable, yeah, it is. so so I think it works in the same way. So that's why I say, in practice, when there's joy, and when there's joyous effort, one of the most important topics of the Madhyamika text, once you study Madhyamika, and one of the most important aspects of Madhyamika is developing joyous effort. And this is the reason why, because once you have that joyous effort, then you don't realize how time is going, then it doesn't look so far, then it doesn't look like unachievable, it becomes so near, so achievable, and you just enjoy the journey. So therefore, in the journey of your practice, so therefore, there's no constant reminding of how hard it is and how much time it's taking, and that reminder itself takes such, effort as well. So coming down to the second point, this would be an important thing that we realize the methods of the joyous effort linked to the practice of the development of the mind. So both of these 2 points, I think, have everything to do with with practice in regards to inspiration. Now comes the hard part, I think, one of the hardest parts of practice. In different teachings of the Buddha is introduced differently. Um, uh, one of the first teachings of the Buddha, the Four Noble Truths. It's introduced right at the beginning. That also, I think, changes because there's few different teachings on the Four Noble Truths, and one of the teachings, well, I mean, the main teaching, in that main teaching, then it's left at the beginning, but in other aspects of the teaching, then it has been flipped, and they show what do we say, the result first, what is it, the cessation of the practice of the path first. So this is a little bit different in what do we say, in um, uh, transcription of the different ways of the teachings of the Buddha. But anyway, coming down to the point, if we talk about the practice of the Four Noble Truths in general state, then knowing suffering is comes first. So knowing suffering, a lot of people take it very harshly, because we react differently by towards suffering, right? When there's suffering, there's two ways of reacting. When there's let's say there's an accident and there's very messy, what we say, gross uh, incident happened, maybe, let's say, something like that, and our reaction towards it differs, even in videos nowadays. Sometimes they blur things out, right? They don't want you to see the messiness of the incident, so they blur things out. So similarly, in our mind also something like that happens, when we're messy, then we tend to avoid seeing those things, and they're not a bad thing. I mean, there's no bad or good in any of those. Now the second reaction is uh, interest, because there's interest, then you take your phone out and you take your video out and you start recording everything. This also happens nowadays. So both of this happens. So that is the second incident where there's the interest, even though the whole, what we call it, the whole thing is very scenic, experience is very drastic, but then there's interest, and therefore the interest sort of like invites you to to what we say, visually or whatever, get uh, uh, what we say, move towards it. Now the third incidence is feeling also, because the reaction, there's different kinds of reaction, no? And the reaction has a lot to do with, I think, our own mind. This is why, discovering ourselves is extremely important, because the reaction comes based on our intention, based on our values, based on our mindset, based on all of those things, that is very personalized. So third thing is the emotional reaction. There's the physical reaction, which whether you want to avoid or whether the interest pulls you towards visually being intact with it, or or dependent on the emotional reaction, which is whether we are sad, whether we are angry, whether we are confused, whether we are shocked, whether we are traumatized. So all of this is the emotional reaction towards it. Yeah. So when we do see, or when we do recognize suffering, it's important to recognize suffering based on, like I said, based on your qualities, your internal qualities. If we introduce something very drastic to someone who's very mild, or who can only take mild information in regards to all of that, then uh, the reaction that you are expecting doesn't come. The reaction is also avoidance. Yeah. So recognizing suffering is very, very, very personalized, I think. Yeah. The practice of recognizing suffering is very personalized. um for some people, the practice of what do you say, or also the practice of the Najur practice, the, what do we say, the yogini practice. Yeah. yogic practice or yogigni practice. Now, these, I think, a lot of sadhus and a lot of Hindus nowadays also are very strong practitioners. In the Buddhist also, I think Buddhist mostly is wandering saints, we call them, or yogis, that are very in tune with this kind of practice. But these people, they go beyond the limit and they go to, what we call cemeteries, where they burn the bodies and where they, and they actually, in the olden days, they used to live off the bodies in some cases as well. It's a little bit drastic. uh, uh, but then there are certain types of practice in regards to that, also in regards to how you develop mentally, your mental reaction towards this, whether you want to react out of fear or whether you want to react out of compassion also. Now these reactions, all kinds of different reaction is going to come out, and these reactions depend on a very personalized level. So before all of the awakening and all of this, being able to understand our state of mind and how we react to certain things is, I think, is very important. And this is why, uh, during Buddha's travels around the world, well, no, mostly in Nepal and India, but during his travel in Nepal and India, one of the things that he did was he taught, um, in the ways, they say, teaching in the ways. And the reason they say the teaching in the ways is because there's so many ways of teaching, and this is everything to do with mental state, with cognitive state, with awareness state, with wisdom state, with knowledge state, and all of that. So based on different wisdom, different knowledge, and different mindset, and different perspectives, and different backgrounds, the teachings tend to change a lot. And this is why there's so many schools. I mean, of course, most of you have studied Buddhism profoundly, so there's a lot of schools in Buddhism, and this is why the schools exist. Because and even if you at those days, they didn't call the schools, they didn't call this, they didn't call that, all of this. I think most of these different sectors, and even in the Vajrayana sector, in the Tibetan Buddhist sector, we have many different sects. And even in the different sects, there's again, more different sects, what we say, within the different sects as well. So it's a little bit confusing nowadays with the lineages and that and this, and especially with the lamas and that and this and all of this. There's so many partitions, and they're doing that, they're doing this, they're focusing here, they're focusing there. What is the best for me? I don't know. So that tends to happen a lot. But at the what is at the core of all of this, the focus is on the teaching of the Buddha. Shakyamuni Buddha is the Buddha of our era, and therefore his teachings in every lineage that comes afterwards until now, whether it be influenced through culture, whether it be influenced through tradition, whether it be influenced through different, what do we say, different kingdoms and so on and so forth, whatever the influence may be, the very plain core value of the practice is what is taught by the Buddha. So we come back to that state of awareness that, yeah, this is the clean part of it. There's no tradition, no culture, no this, no that. The only concept here is our ability, how to develop our ability to reach the state of enlightenment. What are the benefits of the state of enlightenment, and how do I achieve it? And within the how do I achieve it, then comes the different, what do we say? They call it the different scopes, right? So the different scopes in regards to our understanding towards it, and the different scopes in regards to our own state of the mind towards it. So the different scopes are introduced. I think one of the more, what do we say, condensed, profound introductions of the concept of the scopes is within the Lamrim. And yeah, so of course, reading the Lamrim give you a very clear understanding of all of this. So uh, where was I? Ah, 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 ah. Yes, so the Four Noble Truths. So one of the first levels of, again, important point. I mean, the third important point is in regards to recognizing of what we call samsara, of recognizing what we call suffering, right? Um, Now, within that, I think there are also, like I said, based on the different levels, there are different levels of understanding suffering. Uh, First level is always internal, personal, right? Internal and personal. So the first level has always to do with the focus of internalizing and focusing on the personal side of how you can recognize suffering. Um, we if we look what we say, if we look at the concept of suffering is nothing. If you look at from the what we say from the philosophical point, it's nothing but the lack of inner peace. That's suffering, right? When there's inner peace, there cannot be suffering. When there's suffering, there cannot be inner peace. So this is what we say scalable, right? If one side goes up, the other side comes down. When other side goes up, one side comes down. So if you want to what we say if you want to sort of like measure, then I would say this is one of the best ways to measure the concept of suffering and happiness is in regards to dukkha and inner peace, the measurement. This is internal measurement, okay? This is personal measurement. So personally measuring these concepts in that state can give you the idea or give you the benefit of being able to recognize it. Without recognizing it, you cannot really what we say diagnose it, no? So in order to diagnose it, you need to recognize it. This is why the first noble truth, one of the reasons why in the main teaching of the four noble truths, you need to know first. So I give you example of the doctor and the patient and the sickness. Yeah, without recognizing the sickness, then the doctor cannot do anything about it. So that's why the doctor, the first the first moment you come in, they put this thing on, they check, they check with your scans and that and this, and then they understand. Now they can do something about it, right? So unless that is there, so same thing happens here. You are your own doctor, your therapist. There's this all this different approach in regards to working with it, but then the main thing is recognizing it. Internal recognition, like I said, internal recognition has to do with, if there's inner peace, there's no suffering. If there's suffering, then there's no inner peace. So this is internal recognition. Now, recognizing suffering is different from recognizing the causes of suffering. This is two different things again. We normally think, oh, our ability to, what do we say, to cognize the causes of suffering can lead us to what we say to recognize our own suffering, but in reality the causes of suffering are very, very, what we say, they're very good at hiding. Yeah, they hide uh, throughout our mind in all different places. And this is, I think, one thing that we just talked earlier in regards to what we say the first aspect of practice. Yeah. So same thing. It hides all over the place, and we are unable to recognize it in plain sight. So when it comes to practice, when we are in front of our guru, especially when we are in front of our guru, and then when we are in the monastery and when we are doing our practice, that time the awareness is very high. And yes, no, oh, when anger comes out towards your enemy, oh, I shouldn't, I have to practice, I need to practice, I need to calm down. When anxiety comes, or when focus doesn't come, oh, I need to develop focus, I need to practice, I need to practice. So that is there, especially in front of your guru, then that is there, that is very clearly there. And then when when different people say things that hurts your ego, then you are like, oh, yeah, no problem, okay. Yeah. But then you go back home where you're not in front of your guru, you're not in front of the statues of the Buddhas, and you're not practicing, you're not sitting down and doing your daily prayer. Then the emotions are running all over the place. Sometimes it's sad, sometimes it's angry, sometimes it's trying to figure out what's happening, sometimes it's, all over the place. And then a lot of times is self-harm, self-blaming. Oh, you shouldn't have done this, you should have done that, you should, you can't do this, you can't do that, you're not good enough. So now the emotions running all over the place. The practice is not there at all. And once we go into that state, then the whole concept of enlightenment and peace, inner peace and joy and happiness and practicing in the perfections, these are all out of the window. Yeah, our soul reaction is focused so much on the what we say, the emotional side of it, that now everything is out of the window and we are focusing solely on the emotional aspect of all of this. So now you see something completely different from what you are supposed to do. And this is why I said hiding is extreme. These things are very good at hiding. We've been hiding our emotions and our, the ways we do things. So, and we become quite good at it as well. So emotional hiding here, emotions hiding there, the self-cherishing. And this is why, when we practice on the path of enlightenment, then the path of enlightenment becomes challenging even for bodhisattvas when it comes to realizing aspects of the view of emptiness and negating what we say, the subtle aspects of the grasping attitude. It goes all the way into the tantric path. And this is not because they are not good at what they are doing. It's because the grasping attitude is really, really, really good at hiding. Yeah. So these aspects of destructive emotions, they are hiding all over the place, and therefore the what we say, it becomes hard to recognize them in certain, and then especially when we call it, what do you call this, um, when an aspect of the cognitive mind, one aspect of the cognitive mind has a strong hold over the other. And this is what happens. And this is one thing about emotions. When emotions are high, then it sort of like covers logic, it covers reasoning, it covers wisdom, it covers, what do we say, knowledge, it covers everything else. And every reaction coming out of it comes solely out of the emotional aspect of it, very, very, very clearly. And I think this is something that we all experience, especially in regards to hatred and anger. Ooh, these are very, very, very impactful emotions that sort of like in so many different ways. What it does, it's completely like covers our reasoning, our logic, our that, our this, everything is covered, and none of them work. Solely focusing on the aspect of how much you are hurt and in how unreasonable that is. Yeah, focus solely on your own concept of what is in regards to how you value things. And then if you keep on focusing on that focus also grows. Yeah. So which is now coming to the fourth aspect of practice, is in regards to growth. Growth is growth. It's very normal. Whether it's a growth in a good thing or growth in a bad thing, it's still growth. And the aspects of how we practice in our daily life is to do with growth. And the focus of the growth, I think, comes in the exact same aspect of what do we say, of how we are intentionally seeing things and unintentionally seeing things. These two aspects of it. So I think we'll go more on this after the recognition of suffering. Um, Recognizing suffering, I think, is For a lot of people, recognizing suffering is to do with being able to have a very strong understanding that your life is suffering, samsara is suffering, this is suffering, that is suffering, and therefore it's horrible, and therefore, you know, enlightenment is important. But in reality, what I think, through the practice of what we say, uh, the middle way or the middle path, what I think is there has to be a balance between the two, and that's what keeps us at bay. You know, our mind, that's how our mind works. I think especially for human beings, right? Human beings, if you are not a bodhisattva and if you are not a Buddha, then as human beings on a personal level, uh, how our mind works, or how best at best our mind works is our it works best at the state of balance, you know, at the state, this what do we call the, what is the sweet spot, right? the 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 sweet spot of being able to practice, yeah, right in the middle. So that is, I think that is an important focus, because the sweet spot is the place where our practice can actually really develop. And now this is very important because uh, I think unless we are in tune very strongly in the practice of the middle path, most people would actually focus on, not focus on the sweet spot, and always focus on the, what do we say, uh, on the good part, the enlightenment part, the peace, the joy, the happiness, you know. Now, if I give you worldly examples, I think worldly examples is a good thing because we can relate very strongly towards it. So, if I give you an example of a worldly example, it will be that if we are, if we work too much, then it affects us. We are not happy. Now, if you're constantly working, there's no, what do we say, no relaxation, no peace, no time to, constantly working, then there's, you know, then we're not happy, the happiness doesn't come. But imagine that, then our wish is, yeah, I wish I didn't have to work, I wish I didn't have to do anything, you know. But then let's say that, yeah, okay, you know, your wish, you know, I don't know, God, the creator God snaps his finger and he says, okay, you have your wish. You don't have to do anything from now on. Imagine how boring life would be, or how, I don't know, how impatient we would be. Like, you know, you had nothing to do. Maybe for 1 month, 2 months, you can, you know, you can sort of like do things. But then, you know, of the constant of having nothing to do, you know, I've met people who have nothing to do and who just, you know, and this is why one thing, what is it, scrolling, is it scrolling through your social media has become a huge thing nowadays, yeah. When you have nothing to do, then you're scrolling. Because you did your time to go. What are you going to do? You just go. And when you are scrolling, then there's no awareness of time. So, you know, you're throwing away time like this, you know, constantly. So so just imagine yourself in the state of having nothing to do at all for not days, not weeks, not months, not years, you know, for your entire life. I don't think that's peace. I think a lot of people can actually go, you know, a little bit cuckoo, cuckoo, right? A little bit mentally, what do you say? This insanity sort of thing. If you had nothing to do and nothing, there's no, you know, there's no sense of work. There's no sense of production. There's no sense of achievement. I think that's not easy. That's hard, actually. So this is one thing, in regards to, you know, in regards to putting one thing more than the other, right? Another thing is in regards to happiness, right? Happiness is very clearly recognizable when we have, you know, downs. Yeah, if we don't have downs and it's constantly in the state of upwards, then how do we recognize happiness? and something to think about philosophically. These are things that everything develop because of our understanding. Everything develops through understanding. So these are, I think, important points to actually sit down and meditate on. Instead of meditating on the breath, I mean, focusing on the breath, in out, focus on something like this. This is a topic, an important topic that can give you some kind of conviction, some kind of clear understanding on things. So think about it, right? Think about this idea. Maybe this can be your homework. Meditating on the balance of happiness and suffering, why it's important, or if it's important at all or not. There's something to think about. So yeah, so just as examples in these states, I think recognizing that, oh yeah, one thing leads to, if I had a very hard day today, then relaxation is really good tomorrow. If I didn't have a hard day today and I was relaxing today, then tomorrow relaxation is going to be very boring. Then you call your friends, hey, what are you doing? Are you free or not? Then you're messaging your friends, are you free or not? You want to go for dinner or not? You want to go here or not? You want to do that or not? It's constantly you're trying to find something to do because you have nothing to do, right? So I think this is a good worldly example in this in the understanding of balance in some way. So too much of, we say, right, everything becomes poison when there's too much of it, right? What is it? Protein is good, but you have too much protein, you always eat protein and too much protein, then it becomes a problem. Yeah, then sugar is good, but if you have too much sugar, then then it's a problem. And salt is also good, but if you have too much salt, then also a problem. I heard about this person who drank, I don't know how many gallons of water, and he died. Some kind of Guinness World Record competition or something like that they wanted to do. uh, and Water is good for you, yeah. It dehydrate. I mean, what is it? Hydrates you. It's good for the body. It's good for your blood. It cleans that. This, yes, there's nutrition in it. But then, if you because it's good, you start drinking gallons of it, then it's harmful to you, right? So, in that aspect, look at it through that aspect, and maybe you can do some meditation on it in regards to it. So yeah. So I think the balance, understanding the balance, not just this is, I think, into on the basis of today's what is the topic? Balance in recognizing, after recognizing suffering, the balance of recognizing suffering, not just through suffering as in pain and all of that, but also recognizing suffering in the sense that when there's too much of it, then also there's suffering. Yeah, when there's too much quietness, then there's suffering. When there's too much loud music, then there's suffering as well. We can enjoy music, loud music. We can enjoy for maybe, if what do you call, in the West, you have this big places where you have these bands coming and playing live music with the huge sound systems, and and they go on for weeks, I heard. And sometimes I think, how do these people handle weeks of this sound? Maybe one day, 2 day, okay, but then, and also the concept, in certain jails, I don't know if they do it nowadays or not, but then in certain jails, in the previous time, they used to do is they torture people through music. They play one music over and over and over again for days and days and days and days. And these people, it affects them mentally. There's so much suffering. So in that sense as well. So suffering, the concept of suffering is not just always, oh, broken leg, broken pain, broken heart. That this is also in the too much of the good part as well. So this is recognizing on different levels of suffering. And most of them, you also understand that at the end of the day, comes down to the self-cherishing view. It comes down, the self-cherishing view is completely different from the, what do we say, what do you call it, what do you call it, uh, well, basically, I think you'll understand it when I try to put down in words. So basically, the mind, when it focuses on the I, me, and my, there's two different kinds of focus on the I, me, and my. There's the development focus of the I, me, and my, which focuses on the development of it and tries to gain things. External development, internal development. Most external development are focused as dukkha, as suffering, as samsara. And the reason why it's focused on as dukkha and samsara is because the concept of that achievement is unstable, is not consistent. It doesn't what do we say stay there. The achievement is not what do we say not an achievement. It's just like giving a kid candy, sweet. Yeah, it's momentary. It doesn't last. Now the internal development, also in regards to the internal development, there's, like we said, there's development of the what we say the gross part, and the development of the non-gross part, the development of the paramitas or the perfections, and the development of the destructive emotions. So now both of them are development, but then the focus of development on the destruction has to go down, because again, same thing, it everything is based. Well, now I'm going to say everything. We can go, maybe if you do go touch the topic of emptiness, then not everything is impermanent. But then coming down to the now, let's say everything is impermanent, everything that is what do we say um uh, what do we conventional, right? Everything that is conventional is impermanent. So in that aspect of it, when there's an impermanent result, then the effort, whether the effort is worth putting or not, that is questionable. And I think this is one aspect of why we need to understand the focus changes in every aspect, is because we realize that a permanent result is much better than a non-permanent result. And the non-permanent result also, there is no dependence on it because it's not permanent. Whereas if there is a permanent result, then the dependence becomes more clear. So the gross part, non-permanent, it doesn't last, right? It's very changeable, interchangeable. Now you go on to the other part. Oh, the ultimate part, the what do we say, the development part of the perfections. Now, in that state, then the side logics that support the development of the perfections, and the mindset that is supported by the for the towards the development of the perfection is profound, extremely profound. The difference is there. So if I give you an example, it would be anger for let's put anger on one side, and let's put compassion on one side. Anger, mostly the basis of the development of anger uh, is, let's say, if we think from the top of our mind, we would say, oh yeah, anger comes out of jealousy, anger comes out of hatred, anger comes out of the grasping attitude, anger comes out of these things, which is, again, these themselves don't have a valid reason. So this is the reason why, when we are emotionally affected, while we are emotionally affected, the anger can grow very, very quickly, like this. It grows. But then after we have calmed ourselves down, after we have reached the state where the anger, where we have emotionally calmed ourselves down, and we look back at our reaction when we had anger, then we laugh at ourselves and we think, oh, why? What was the point? What did I achieve out of it? These things start to come out. Same thing with jealousy, same thing with all these destructive emotions. When you are able to minimize the emotional aspect of it, then you start thinking logically. None of them make sense. None of them make sense. This is why spirituality becomes so important, extremely important part, because spirituality, one of the things about spirituality teaches us this. Yeah. So But then look at compassion, for example. Compassion, let's say let's say enlightenment. Yeah, look at, or the bodhisattvahood. Just give you, or even kindness, right? You look at something like this, and you look at the supporting emotions. Yeah, the supporting, no, not emotions, but the supporting logic or supporting whatever it is, whatever things that supports it, are actually very consistent. Yeah, once you have achieved conviction, it stays there consistently. It's like trust, right? You say trust hard to build, but once it's built, then the trust is very strong. It stays there. It's not, it's not like, oh, when I'm calm, then I look back at trust and then it makes no sense. That doesn't happen. So most of these parts, if you look, I think it's debatable. I'm just bringing out a topic that can be meditated on. I think it's an important topic as well, so it can be meditated on, and I'm sure it can be debatable as well. So if later on one day maybe we can have a session on debate, and maybe that time we can discuss on it, but something to contemplate on, right? Something to contemplate on. So anyway, coming down to the aspects of whether what do we say, a practice to develop is worth developing or not, is, I think, judged based on how reliable they are and how consistent they are. And when they are unreliable and non-consistent, anyway, when they are not consistent, then you can see that, oh, your reliability on them is sort of like conventional. It doesn't is not beneficial. Now when something is more reliable, more on state, more concrete, then that practice would actually make more sense. And then this is something that I've talked in TNL before as well, in regards to development, the support of development in all of this: genuinity, sincerity, unconditionality. These aspects of development that take these things take a lot of effort, but once you have developed, it's consistent, it's solid, it's solidified, and it's hard to break. After you trust someone, even if that person you trust, once you have built an unbreakable trust, then even if that person does some is this is a lot of talks that I had in regards to guru devotion nowadays. One of this is this unbreakable guru devotion. So anyway, coming back, we'll talk about this later on, but coming back to the point is that once you develop guru devotion, very clear, right? Very clear. Even if there's a lot of stories in the past where like how Marpa treated Milarepa, and all of these other stories, yogic stories, the result is completely different. How they practice and how they did things are questionable. you know if you come to nowadays, in the 21st century, and if you are treated like how Marba treated Milarepa, then you could go to jail. Right? So these are very questionable ways of, but then because the devotion is unbreakable there, there's no question whether it's questionable or not. From that side, there's no question, sort of thing. So this is the kind of, I think, the kind of development. I'm not saying towards that, but in your own practice, in your own development, this has to be there. The judgment of these two different kinds of practice, you can see that practicing on one aspect of it is gives you the more stronger grasp, the more solidification, whereas on the other part, when you are reacting out of, especially out of the three poisons, it's very unstable, and it doesn't bring that exact same consistency. And like I said, it changes. It changes based on emotion, it changes based on environment. It's like a person, if I have an enemy and we have a gathering today, when my enemy is walking around, then I'm very aware, I'm not talkative, but once it goes away, then I feel more comfortable, right? I'm more happy, so that I'm more talkative. So you can see that exact same change in our emotions as well. When the emotion is there, then the mood is different. The reaction is different. How you hear things is different. How you listen is different. How you practice is different. But then when that goes away, then there's joy, there's effort, there's everything that is necessary in order to towards that development comes very naturally. So the whole reason why the truth of suffering, or why understanding what we say conventional reality is important, especially in the concept of suffering, and the concept of what we say samsara, is in order to get rid of the enemy in the room, so you feel comfortable and you feel joy to be who you are and practice as you like. Yeah, as long as that enemy is in the room, then the what we say the what do we say, the fear and the security and all of that, the concern, it's there. So you cannot practice in the same way, you cannot develop in the same way, you cannot what we say proceed in the same way. So exact same concept again. How we can do this is through the recognition of your own internal emotions, and in your own internal, what do we say, understanding or wisdom, or what we say, conviction, or the concept of your own. I don't know, just disappeared. uh, so, yeah, so yeah, uh. So yeah, so understanding your own values in regards to how you practice, that becomes of, I think, the source of your joy in practice. Yeah. So yeah. Mm, 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 mm. Now another thing is in regards to practice. I think practice is like being a parent, you know, especially if you are a single parent, single mother, single father. Maybe you have a better good idea on in regards to practice. And if not, then also just putting yourself in the shoe of a single parent maybe can also give you a very clear understanding of practice. When you see the benefits and when you see the joy and when you look towards the result with such, what do we say, big heart, then the effort becomes, when people look from outside, it looks like you're putting a lot of effort, and you are putting a lot of effort, but then the effort is, the word worth it. Yeah, we say, always say, yeah, it was worth it. It's like climbing Mount Everest, right? People are struggling, 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 days and days training in the cold, unable to breathe, have to use oxygen, have to, cannot pee up there, cannot poop up there, all kinds of different levels of suffering out there. But anyway, yeah, they struggle and strive, and then finally they reach the top. Then they come down, then they say, yeah, it was worth it, right? So they put the effort because it's worth it. So similarly, when you have, that kind of aspiration or that focus, that joy in the focus, then the practice, the path towards it also becomes very, very effortless. There's a lot of effort in it, but it's worth it. And therefore, it makes it more fun, it makes it more enjoyable, it makes it. And this is, I think, another aspect of practice that is extremely important that we need to understand. How do you make your practice easy? And the method to make your practice easy, I think, is through that conviction of that. The clearer that conviction is, the easier the practice becomes. You know, the more worth it you realize it is, the more effort you can put with by even you, while you put a lot of effort, the more effortless it will start to feel. And then also, once you get what is it, habituation in the practice, in the efforts of the practice, then habituation builds character, and this is the type of character that we want. What we say, immovable. I'm sure most of, maybe all of you, of course, if not, maybe some of you are not, But anyway, I'm sure all of you know Kyabje Lama Thupten Soba Rinpoche. And I think such a inspirational practitioner, because the amount of effort that he put was mind blowing. I mean, I always come back to the story where you know, attended him for maybe 10 days at Amravati during the Kala Chakra teaching. I was 15, 16 years old, young and what do you call? But anyway, um, I thought I would last 10 days, and after 2 days, I didn't last. I didn't have enough sleep. I didn't have enough to eat, and I was anyway. It was not easy being Rinpoche's attendant. Rinpoche, Rinpoche didn't sleep 24/7. He didn't sleep. He was constantly and the whole day teaching, morning, evening, his own personal prayers. Then afternoon, he barely had time to eat. So we would, heat the food maybe 10 times before Rinpoche actually had time to, you know, enjoy his meal. And then also whole night after meeting, and there were thousands of people coming to see him, groups and groups and groups and groups of people, and one after another, one after another. I mean, there were some people who were complaining because they were waiting, but Rinpoche was waiting the whole 10 days there, to see these people. So I mean, comparatively, I don't know about the waiting part. They wait for 1 day, 2 day, and then start complaining. But anyway, and then the whole after meeting all these people and taking notes of all the different problems that the people had, we had to prepare thormas, and we had to prepare the, what do we say, the altar and this and that, for all kinds of different pujas for the whole night. Started with Lama Chopa, and then there was a Thara puja, there was a Dakini puja, there was that puja, this puja, and it went on and on and on and on until until Rinpoche's morning prayer. And even I hardly doubt that Rinpoche even had time to do his morning prayers. So the effort that Rinpoche put was immeasurable. Immeasurable, unmeasurable, anyway. so so the effort that he put was in that state. It's like, the amount of effort, it is, you could hardly breathe. But then the effort, the joyful effort, you see, it just seemed like there was no effort at all from his side. It looked like he just rode the waves. He just, once you're a surfer, you find a wave, you're like, right? And there we are on the other side trying to beat the wave and tumbling in the wave and going around, being thrown here, smashed towards the rocks. But then there's Rinpoche, riding the wave very smoothly, very happily, very joyfully. And I think this is the way to practice. This is what joyful effort is. This is how the mental state actually develops towards that point. And all bodhisattvas are like that. All Buddhas and bodhisattvas are like that. It's not all peaceful, relaxed. The concept of heaven in in explain in other religions. They have this concept of, yeah, okay, once I'm in heaven, then there's peace. You get what you want, you can relax, enjoy, you don't have to worry about anything, that sort of thing. But then the concept of Buddhist enlightenment is, I think, not like that. And it's about, you know you don't go to enlightenment where you can now stretch your legs and and just lay down and enjoy for the rest of your, I don't know, yeah, eternity, just enjoying benefits. That sounds more like, what do you call, pure land. Pure light, even though you are in pure, one of the god realms, one of the godly pure realms, we say, right? It sounds more like that. Enlightenment is beyond that. There's so much joy. I think, quite unimaginable how much joy there is in the effort they put. So this is the kind of focus that we are putting on at the moment. Anyway, just give you a brief idea on how amazing practice can actually be when you are, in love with practice, when there's joy, when there's joyful effort in the practice. So amazing. So anyway, Venerable Dundo, what time? I'm
We
not
have
focused on the time. It's
we have about
timing or not timing?
15 more
Huh?
minutes, Rinpoche.
Okay, 15 more
15
minutes.
more
Okay.
minutes.
Good, good, good. Okay. So today not so much detail. I think focus more on and these, I think we had a few important points to actually meditate on, that you can meditate on, of course. These are things that you can sit down and contemplate and meditate on, because I think it will give you a very clear sense of. Without having a clear sense of practice, practice becomes extremely hard. And without having a clear sense of practice, practice not just becomes hard, but becomes very vague. You don't know what to concentrate on. There's a lot of people come and say, oh, should I do this? Should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? This is, I think, becomes clearer when your what do we say, when your focus is also clear. And the focus, I think, though it sounds a little bit selfish, the focus is always yourself, comes down to you, your ability, your personal state, your mental state, your emotional state, your understanding, your level of wisdom. Yeah, these are extreme important points of where practice can actually go towards. Then once you understand yourself, and I think tomorrow we'll talk more on that, because we talk not tomorrow, next Friday. Yeah, next Friday, next Thursday. Well, I don't know. Everyone mix here. It's Friday for us. It's Thursday for you. So yeah. So next time we talk about understanding the mind. I think we'll dive more into that, more on personalizing practice and all of that. Today, I think we talk more on inspiration, the inspirational aspects of being able to, and then also on focus on the on what to focus when it comes to focusing on unsatisfaction, on focusing on suffering, when focusing on samsara. Yeah, not everyone can take in the concept of hell ram and all of that. And not everyone, also some people can go really very, intense into that practice as well. So the practice level I think sort of differentiates. And then probably in the future, based on if you are able to, to go into that type of practice or not, maybe we can do courses on that as well. We can develop a course in regards to that as well. So, very deep, in-depth practice of recognizing suffering, that for some people it can be, I think, a little bit too much for the what is it, for the practice. So we can definitely go into that. But for now, what I want you to concentrate is, I want you to concentrate on the concept of balance that we talked about today. Is important, extremely important for your own practice. Yeah, balance is extremely important. And like I said, balance doesn't mean balancing good and bad. It also means being able to balance within the bad and within the good as well. Yeah, so within the good, I think the example that I gave gives quite clear understanding on within the good. How do I balance within the good? Too much good can be bad for you as well. So that kind of concept. The second one is embracing what we say, embracing meditation in regards to how you would actually put things in perspective. So in regards to practice of what we say of renunciation, how would you put yourself in, if you put yourself in a situation where you had to renounce, what would, not saying what would, but what does actually come up in the mind, in the recognizing of that state of mind. Yeah, state of mind in regards to generosity, state of mind in regards to, what we say, consistency, a state of mind in regards to, what we say, evaluation of the practice, state of mind in regards to, okay, how do I focus on meditating on the grasping attitude or meditating on samsara itself. What's my state of mind when I see this kind of drastic, and some people, there is that as well, because without the balance, our reaction towards, even when we are meditating on suffering, I've seen this a lot. uh they sit down, they meditate on suffering, they start contemplating all the different kinds of suffering in the world, and then it affects them so much, so emotionally, that it starts to build not just compassion, but also starts to build hate, hate towards the world, hate towards, the people who are putting the effort, joyful effort in destroying the world. So this hate starts to grow. No, it's just, constantly. So if it goes towards that, then you know that the practice is not suitable, because we are not here to practice in growing hate. We are here to practice in growing compassion. So if it's having the opposite, then we don't want to go on that path. Yeah. So these things, just like I said, if you put your perspective in a situation and see how your mind would actually react to it, you actually start to see what real practice and why joyful practice will be to you as well, on a personal level. So so in regards to understanding, sorry, in regards to understanding suffering, personalization of understanding suffering is important, especially on the path to practice, especially for beginners. But then once you have built that rhythm and that understanding, I think then you can start to really go deep into practice. Yeah. But then until your mind is not ready, if you try to push yourself too much, then the risk is also there that you start to see, you developing hate instead of love, you developing depression instead of peace. So these things can happen. So just being aware, I think this is the first level of awareness, being aware that to measure the type of practices that is important, or that can be developed joyfully for you. Yeah. So um I think focus on that, and then always don't forget to take in inspiration. Inspiration is, I think, the key point of practice. Now, one day without inspiration can lead to 10 days of unproductiveness. Yeah. So inspiration is so important. And if you can, I think every morning, daily practice, one thing should be inspiration. And especially, I think for me, I think, if you really know Gyabje Lama Thupten Zopa Rinpoche is such an amazing, amazing, what is the object, or what do we say? Not object. I don't know why I said object, but, a source of inspiration, a very, very, very strong source of inspiration. And it can be anyone, like I said, it can be your mother, because like I said, it can be your father if you're a single parent, and your father, it can be, like I said, the effort that a single parent puts into raising a child, that in itself is so inspiring as well. Then it can be, I mean, anything, and even if it's not a human, also in the animal kingdom, if you look at the animal kingdom, the length that these animal parents go in order to save their what do we say, their chicks, or their what do you say, kids, is quite profound, actually. Lot of these things sometimes, then me and my friend, once we were watching, what was it, Discovery Channel, or national, what is the national channel, or something like that. There was this story on this leopard that killed the mother of this deer, and then I think found out that this deer had a kid, and started, what we say, started, what do you call, uh, uh, raising, raising, yeah, this small deer. Then we were like, huh. It's quite mind-blowing in so much senses because we normally don't we normally put an animal in the state of animals. Even that word, you say they are animals, you already see. But then when it comes to this expandage of emotions, it's quite profound in so many different ways. And this is also one of the reasons why a lot of the past bodhisattvas used to manifest as animals in order to to teach people certain things. So anyway, inspiration can be drawn for anywhere. I think there's so many inspirational, inspiring people, inspiring gods, inspiring teachers, inspiring animals. Inspiration. I think it just, if only you're willing to look, you can find inspiration in every corner. Yeah, so just don't forget to look for inspiration from every corner uh, in regards to practicing, because I think that one of the first stages of practice in regards to the practice of the four noble parts, of the four noble truths. The hardest one of the hardest is the first one, recognizing suffering. And sometimes I think we human beings have the hardest practice. We look at bodhisattvas and we see their practice and the way that they practice and the method that they apply, but then their efforts are joyful effort. I don't think it's so hard for them. I think it's so actually very easy for them. We are the ones who don't have that joyful, who don't have that conviction, who are, just starting, and therefore we need to build the base, and therefore it's the hardest for us. So, you need to keep that in mind. That once you build this solid base, then there's the straight flow afterwards. So, yeah. In regards to that, you yourself, I think at the end of what we say, taking all the inspirations from every corner, at the end of the day, you need to give yourself credit for it as well. Don't forget that. Some people think giving credit is self-grasping attitude. But like I said, once you recognize the middle path, you also need to recognize that there is benefit in giving yourself some recognition as well, especially at the beginning. Once you come to the point where there's no necessity, when there's no importance, once you reach the bodhisattva's path and you are able to let go of the self totally, then maybe that time you can practice full selflessness, no recognition, no credit. But at this point, we are if you are not a Buddha and not a bodhisattva, then recognition is an important aspect of the practice as well. Yeah. So I think we stop here today. Yeah, okay. Yes, good. Good. Yeah, so anyway, I think this is today, we sort of covered quite a bit. I think a lot of things to contemplate. I think this is being transcribed, right?
It's
So
recorded.
anyway,
It'll be on our YouTube channel. You can get
okay,
to
okay,
the
then good.
YouTube channel
I
from
think.
the top right of our website. You can get to the YouTube channel.
Okay, okay. So yeah, so this is good. I think a lot of few of the topics today for the next week keep you busy, very, very, very busy. So developing these kinds of practice in our daily life, especially in regards to consistency. One thing you never forget is consistency, no matter what, whether it be on a spiritual aspect of the path, whether it be in a worldly aspect of the path. If you're trying to make money, if you're trying to do this, if you're trying to do that, anything, consistency is again a very, very, very clear winner when it comes to how you can actually develop yourself in that aspect of field or whatever. as a if you are a doctor, the same thing, practice makes perfect. So the consistency in that also develops. And if you are a painter, if you're, any, like I said, any aspect of field, consistency does develop, the necessary skill in becoming, what do we say, practitioner in that skill. So don't forget consistency. A lot of the important points that we talked about today, we can dive deeper into more philosophical, more practice and all of that later on, but then the basis is also extremely important. So today we go through the basis, and like I said, drive the 4 different points we talked about, especially in regards to driving inspiration, becomes extremely important at the beginning. So I hope this keeps you busy, not too what we say, not too relaxed for the next week. And I hope to see you next week. Yeah. Thank you so much.